going back to Winnie the Pooh, since it entered into the public domain, one user on YouTube created an AI movie, a horror movie with bear, and call it Winnie the Pooh horror movie. And then I think Disney could sue him for dilution of the trademark, maybe because it's damaging the image, tarnishing the image. So again, things are in the public domain, but again, it's the story of a bear which the author bought for his son at the Harrods. So it cannot be yellow, maybe it cannot wear a red shirt, all kinds of things. So people have to be very careful about this thing. But okay, so something is in the public domain. So how is it different from fair use then?
Okay, so that's a good question. With fair use, you're not saying that anyone can use it for anything. You're saying you can use it, but only in certain ways for certain purposes. So, for example, as teachers, we are allowed to use intellectual property in our classes as examples to teach students. So, in lots of laws around the world, you'll see that as an example of what we call fair use is. It doesn't mean we can just take that movie and show it in a cinema, in a theatre. We don't own it in that way, but we can use it for teaching and research. If you're talking about, let's say, a movie or some new music that's been released, again, that's probably fair use. You wouldn't be able to make a video about what you think about the new Disney Avengers movie without showing some pictures of the Disney Avengers movie. So again, that's fair use. We call that commentary. You're kind of giving your review of the movie. What you're not allowed to do, of course, is just show the movie, copy the movie, and show the movie yourself. That's not fair use. So this idea of fair use is really important for anyone who creates something on the internet or on social media to understand exactly what it is. You'll often find people say they'll put on a video, they put on a site like YouTube, oh, this is fair use, but they don't really understand what it means. So it's a really important thing to understand, but not the same as public domain where anyone can use it for anything.
So fair use is using copyrighted material for educational purposes, parody, not making money of it, not using the full, not producing the full book, not showing the full movie. Again, many educational establishments are for-profit organizations, private schools, private universities. So it's an interesting question. When they're showing something to students, they're using excuses. It's a fair use, but you're a for-profit organization, kind of like a coffee shop.
Yeah. Education is a business, but generally governments around the world think there should be an exception for education. So if we wanted to, say, talk about a scene from a movie, we thought that was a good example in our classes. It would take so much work to have to get permission to do that every time we do that from a corporation that could be in a different country, right? And then to pay money for that could be really expensive. So generally governments say, hey, if you're using it for education, it's okay. What you're not allowed to do is distribute it, as we would say, yourself. You're not allowed to make copies of it. Give a copy of that film to every student so they can take home and watch it. That probably wouldn't be seen as fair use. In all of these cases, a court will decide that. So this is where, say, people who create things on social media or sites like YouTube, they often misunderstand it. They think, oh, it's okay if you use 1 minute or 2 minutes, but not 5 minutes. The rules aren't that clear. The rules aren't that clear because courts need to look sensibly about, why you're doing this, how you're using it. As you say, are you making money from it? That's a big question that courts will ask.
And also it depends on the owner of that copyright. So, for example, when you upload something to YouTube, it will ask what kind of license. Is it attribution, available to everyone? Is it copyrighted material? So you set the parameters. Then let's say I record my music. I'm Elton John. I record my music. I put it as a copyrighted material. This is the song. If anyone uploads a video with this song, it will immediately notify me that this person is using your material, and then I will decide, okay, you can use it, but if people are watching ads on your video, revenues will go to me, etc., etc. So I have an interesting story. I've watched a documentary about Lewis Carroll and how he wrote Alice in Wonderland by a British company. It wasn't a TV station, it was some kind of small studio. I really liked it, and I thought they had a very interesting perspective, so I thought, I'd like to dub it into Russian, put it on my YouTube channel, and then let them, run ads on my channel. So I asked them permission. Could I dub it into Russian, and you preserve all your rights, and I don't want anything. And they didn't give me permission. They said, we don't allow you to dub it. We don't allow you to distribute it.
Yeah.
So again, it depends on them, and you always have to ask permission. If you don't, the 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 uh, the first thing that will happen, your video will be like blocked and deleted, and then YouTube might even delete your channel altogether, and there might be a legal action even.
Yeah. The strange thing is, it happens much more with music
Mhm.
than it does with movies.
Mhm.
So YouTube is a good example of this. Countries where people have access to YouTube, you can use clips of a movie, and often, minutes worth of clips if you're talking about it, giving a review. The moment you use some of the soundtrack or the songs,
Mhm.
often the YouTube automatic software will detect that
And dub it down.
and dub it down, or even block your video,
Yeah.
or say you can't
Mhm.
make money from
Yeah.
it. So the music software, the copyright
Mhm.
software, is much more aggressive than the video
Mhm.
software. You might think it's the other way
Mhm.
round, but I think that's because the music companies really want to protect their
Mhm.
music, and don't want people using a lot of that music on sites like YouTube.
When YouTube just came out, I think 20 years ago, there were whole movies,
Yeah.
and these days, it's very hard to find movies, and you might watch it one day, and then next week it's gone. YouTube is very aggressive
Yeah.
when it comes
Yeah.
to that. Also, it depends on the languages, and what maybe the studio is very aggressive when it comes to English version of the movie, but like when it comes to like Romanian or Bulgarian, they might not be as aggressive.
I think it's important to realize that why sometimes companies can be so aggressive. Why can't they let us have fun? You just want to watch a movie in a different language, whatever it is. And this is something we talk about in the course, right? There are businesses like Nintendo who, will really protect their intellectual property. And that's based on the history, because there was a famous case involving them where they were accused of stealing the character of King Kong. And it could have ended Nintendo as a company,
Mhm.
right? If they had to pay maybe millions of dollars to a film studio. They won that case. And so for lots of businesses now, intellectual property is basically the whole value of the business. Not just film companies, but you think about big technology companies like Apple or Google. Really, the value of that company is the intellectual property they own. And so you might think that just downloading one movie or one song, that's not going to hurt them. But from their point of view, not justifying it, but from their point of view, they don't want to allow what we would call in law a precedent, that where a court could later say, well, hey, you were okay with Philip downloading that movie, so why are you worried about this case now? They don't want to allow that to happen. So that's why they tend to be so aggressive sometimes in protecting their intellectual property.
And so kind of building on the first episode, we're effectively living in a world where we're living in the world of ideas, and these ideas are generating money, and these ideas are, previously were written down in books or, stored on tapes, and now it's all in the digital format. So it's, if you allow precedent, then next morning everyone will copy and distribute your stuff,
Right.
and you will not be able to earn any money. So
Right.
that's why companies are aggressive about that, and students as future business owners need to be aware um, that kind of what I tell my students, we are surrounded by law, but it's invisible.
Right.
As long as you don't break it, it feels like it doesn't exist. The moment in civil law, criminal law, you break the law, you realize it's there. It was always
Yeah.
there, um, and it can punish you. In civil court, you pay money. In criminal cases, you go to jail.
Yeah, it could get very serious very
Hmm.
quickly. You look at some of the numbers where someone is accused of stealing intellectual property, knowingly or unknowingly. We'll come back to that point, but the costs can be very high, and even going to court itself
Hmm.
is going to cost you a lot of money. Hiring a lawyer, all of that time, maybe taking away from your business, it can destroy businesses. The other side of that
Hmm.
is if you're an entrepreneur who's created something, how can you protect it? How can you protect it against big corporations who we know there are cases of them stealing ideas, stealing inventions from entrepreneurs? So, giving our students a basic understanding of what is valuable about their businesses and how they can protect it is actually the whole ball game. That is your business. As you say, in an economy which is now based on ideas, increasingly, protecting those ideas is central to business. It's not some thing to the side. It is what business is about.
20, 30 years ago, if you had an idea, you could make money of it, and other people had difficulty replicating it. These days, technology is available to everyone.
Yeah.
If you have some kind of a, let's say, bubble tea with some vanilla taste, anyone can reverse engineer that tea and start selling it. So how you protect it, how you build your customer base,
Yeah.
is what we teach. And if students don't learn that, then they won't be able to build a
Right.
business that is successful over the years. It
Right.
will be successful for a month or two, and then someone else will copy the
Yeah.
idea, big company or a small competitor.
Yeah. And it's a global economy. Yeah. The internet is
Mhm.
global,
Mhm.
right? So it might not be another business in Thailand stealing your idea. Someone could have seen your idea on the internet, seen it on your website or on social media, and they could be stealing that from
Mhm.
England or the United States, and you might never know about it. So that's another reason why protecting your ideas, even internationally, could be really important. Maybe in 10 years' time, you're going to be wanting to sell your product in the United States, expanding.
And not just ideas, but also trademarks, trade symbol. Because think about Starbucks. Um, you know, the product is coffee, so anyone can brew coffee. Then their product is third place, right? You come there and relax, and it's very efficient. And they have a round circle, green circle says Starbucks. So in China, there's this company which is coming to other countries. Um, what's the company?
Luckin Coffee?
Luckin Coffee,
Yeah.
right? They've seen how successful Starbucks is. They've done some innovations, where you have to order through the app, and they're growing. So they're selling coffee,
Yeah.
same product. So the only protection for Starbucks is this round green
Right.
thing.
Right.
I'm used to drinking coffee there. I feel like this is my company. I go there.
Yeah.
Nothing else will protect them in
Right.
this world.
Like you say, anyone can learn to brew coffee in a particular way, or take some of those techniques.
Mhm.
The brand is the business. The brand is the business. That trademark, that association we have. So even if businesses don't look like they're kind of technology businesses or intellectual property based businesses, they are.
Mhm.
The McDonald's symbol,
Mhm.
it tells you something. If you want a McDonald's burger, it's usually going to be reliable. That is the
Yeah.
brand,
Yes.
right? And so protecting that is really important. We had the situation in Thailand recently about Subway sandwich stores, right? So it turns out that quite a few Subways were not actually Subways anymore. They used to be Subways, but they stopped being franchises.
Mhm.
And so they shouldn't be using the brand, but people were still walking into these Subway shops, buying their sandwiches, even though it wasn't a proper Subway's. That's kind of funny in a way, but it's also terrible for Subways as a company, because if you get food poisoning or
Mhm.
something from one of those non-Subway
So it makes
shops,
me thinking, why wasn't the corporate Subway of Thailand
yeah,
and US checking who is
yeah,
paying, and
what was
why
going
you
on?
using
Yeah,
the name of Subway,
yeah,
um, because it's very important. And then, uh, as a potential entrepreneur who wants to open a Subway, you start thinking, why should I pay for this word Subway where I can write Sub Day sandwiches and save a lot of money?
yeah. Exactly. So it's really important to protect your brand, even if you're just starting as an entrepreneur. If you lose that ownership of the brand, or it gets confused, someone else has kind of copied it in some way, you could have lost a significant part of the value of your business and all the work that goes into building up a new business. All that hard work could be lost because you haven't thought early enough about the intellectual property.
Okay, thank you for interesting.